So welcome to our July Verso Learning Opportunity. Today we're going to be talking about WISCAT or CILL. And for those of you who are newer, we're going to use a lot of interchangeable words for what is essentially interlibrary loan from places outside of our own system. So let's go ahead and get started. And interlibrary loan, ILL, that's what we here at SWLS consider the request of materials from outside of our system. So that would be WISCAT, which is enabled by CILL. So WISCAT is the shared catalog that we share with the state, and it is run by the Department of Public Instruction. CILL is the CIRC interlibrary loan function in Verso that allows WISCAT to run right inside of Verso. So you're going to hear me say WISCAT or CILL interchangeably. And that's because before we used Verso as our catalog, WISCAT was a separate entity and we had two different screens going. So I use both because some people remember it as WISCAT. Some people only have ever used it as CILL, which is the thing inside of Verso. So anytime you hear those two terms, remember it's just like the function of interlibrary loan. So let's get started with searching right away. We're going to go through a slideshow, and then if we have time, I'm going to go out to a live platform and we'll do some examples together so that you can see it live. I don't like to start that way because it seems like anytime I'm on Zoom and trying to show you WISCAT, it takes like 10 years for a search to load. So instead, I have a lot of screenshots to go through first. So when you're searching through WISCAT, remember always to search Verso first to make sure that our system doesn't have it. Because if our system does have it, we should always be requesting things in our catalog first. Patrons can search the WISCAT resources, so they can look at all of this stuff, but they aren't able to place their own reserves. So they have to come tell you that they need something, and then you'll have to do the search and place the reserve for them. So staff can search WISCAT through the Verso interface and place reserves for patrons. You'll see on the main search screen, there's a pancake icon right next to that quick search tab. And if you click on that pancake icon, a list of resources pop up. And the default is, of course, just us, Southwest Wisconsin Library System. If you check all, that gives you all of the WISCAT resources as well. And then you can search again. So first, click the pancakes. Second, check all to get all of your WISCAT resources enabled. And then third, type in your search and search. So like I said, always search the SWLS catalog first. And then if you expand your search, try and find real holdings to request. So there's going to be stuff that has like 0 owning libraries. Well, that means there's a record, but there's no actual items on that record. So it's kind of blank. You'll see a lot of these for like the Library of Congress. So you'll see LC holdings or something like that. It means that the Library of Congress has a record for it, but not necessarily that there are copies that you can request. So always try to find ones that have available copies because you're going to get the thing a lot faster. And also, if you have a choice, if there's lots of different listings, try to find Wisconsin systems first. So if you don't know which ones those are, South Central, Winding Rivers, Share, Winnifox, Info Soup, which would be like the Appleton area, Northern Waters, Milwaukee County. Those are systems that are in the state of Wisconsin. There's also one called Minitex, which is actually like all of Minnesota, but we do have van delivery with them, so we consider them in state, even though it's like Minnesota. So they would be another one that you can request from with some confidence that it's going to come in delivery without too much delay. The WISCAT Union Catalog often has the standalone libraries, ones that aren't part of like a system ILS. It also has a lot of school libraries. So in the summer, WISCAT Union Catalog is not a great place to look because a lot of those schools are closed for the summer and they're not going to be filling reserves. If it's the only option, it's not a bad one. You can request from there. It's just going to probably be a little bit slower because it has to filter through a lot of like standalone library catalogs to find you some lenders. So whenever you're doing this search, you want to enter the full record and check for lenders and available copies. So you'll see like ILL lender ? And if it's in here as ILL lender, it means they're willing to lend it. You'll see below there's some other options, and Medford has an item, but it is not an ILL lender, meaning they're not necessarily willing to send that. So if you have other options, pick one that says ILL lender. Now, if the only result for the item you're searching for doesn't say ILL lender on it, you can still click request. And basically what happens is that ends up filtering to me and then to DPI. And we do further searches and try to find you more lenders to fill that reserve. It's just a lot more labor intensive. And anytime it's labor intensive, that means it's a lot slower. So instead of getting it in a week, might be 2 or 3 weeks because it has to filter through a lot of human interactions to fill that reserve. Also, if you are requesting an item for a book club, so you need like 5 copies or more copies, instead of using the request this item button, use the multi-copy link on the left-hand side of the screen. And again, we will go through this live if we've got time at the end, but you'll see that multi-copy link. And that's where you would go to request multiple copies of an item. The reason you want to do that instead of just request this item like 5 or 6 times is because when you click request this item, it builds a lender list the same way. And it starts with the same high priority libraries every time. If you do multi-copy, all like 5 copies of those go out to different libraries at once. So it will speed up the fill rate by a ton. So it's really important for you to do multi-copy requests to get those reserves filled as fast as possible. So you're not getting them like one at a time and having to wait days and days and days for each one to get filled. And just a note about multi-copy requests, for those of you who do a lot of book clubs, you might know that like Milwaukee has 12 copies of this on their shelf. But if you do a multi-copy request, only one of your requests is going to go to Milwaukee County. So if you know their lender code, in which, like in this case, Milwaukee Public Library is XC36, and this is the example because a lot of times they've got like 1 billion copies of popular books. If you manually enter them multiple times at the top of your lender list, it will send multiple copies straight to Milwaukee first before spreading out and going to other libraries. So this is only when you absolutely know that they have them on their shelf. But it is handy. And like, you don't have to put the comma and the days to fill and the, call number or anything. Just put their code and hit enter. And it will create those multiple requests straight to them all at once. It's something that we tested out just a few weeks ago to see if it would work, because a lot of times Milwaukee will get one request and be like, oh, well, I've got 5 copies, but they only asked for 1. So they just send one. And then you're waiting for like all these other libraries to fill it when they would have sent you 6 if you had just asked. So it's just a tip for those of you who often do book clubs where you're requesting a bunch of stuff. So the next step then is to search for your patron's name after you request this item. Decide whether you want to search out of state as well. Sometimes this means that you're going to be paying postage. If you care about that, uncheck the try out of state button or make sure it's not checked when you submit. Any addition is acceptable. If you need large print specifically, you should uncheck this. If you want a VHS and not a DVD, you should uncheck this. For books, if you don't care if it's the 1959 version or the 1972 print, keep this checked because then like it widens your ability to get the reserve filled, especially if it's a rarer old thing that has multiple publication dates. If you need large print or only DVD, you should also check this format only. This one is going to ensure that you get exactly the thing that you're asking for and nothing else related. And again, that's mostly for if you need it to be large print or if you specifically need VHS instead of DVD or only Blu-ray and not DVD or something like that. If you need to do a borrower note, you can add that here. A borrower note would be like, hey, this is for book club. I need it until the end of August. Or van delivery only, please no mail. Because there are Wisconsin libraries that have to mail, like the VA clinics or some correctional institutions or things like that. Some special libraries that aren't part of our van delivery network. So if you do not want mailed things, it's a good idea to just put that in the borrower's note, like no mail, please. And then after you hit submit, remember to revert your search resources back to just SWLS only, just so that the next time you do a search, you don't accidentally get like everything in the state. Any questions so far? If you hear banging and stuff in the background, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my kids are home and they are like elephants upstairs. It is so loud. All right, if there are no questions, let's move on to receiving and checking out those requests that you asked for. So when the items arrive in the bin, you'll go to the ILL admin tab on your staff dashboard and use either request manager or borrower requests or search by request number to find that item request. I like borrower requests because you can search by patron name, you can search by ILL request number. It's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. But I think that either borrower requests or search by request number are the fastest 2 options. Select the item and change the status from shipped to received and click submit. And then you can go to the patron record and find the item on their checkout screen. It's going to say like this is ready to check out, and you can click the checkout button right on the screen to check that item out to your patron. If you need to print a reserve slip, you can also do that there. Or hold notify. You can click hold notify as well. You can see patron request status in the ILL admins tab or ILL items tab in a patron account. You can see whether it's already been received, whether it's on the way, whether it's still pending. And that will help give your patron a little bit of information about whether their stuff is on the way or not. If you see things in here that are no longer on the way or they're like really, really old or have been canceled, but you can't get rid of them, let me know, because a few years ago there was a little bit of a glitch and some stuff got stuck in this screen. And I know how to clean it up, but it takes a little bit of like rigmarole, and I'm happy to do it for you. Just send me a patron name and which items like no longer belong. So check-ins and returns. So this is like a really important part of the ILL process. First of all, make sure your patron knows that that item has to be returned to your library specifically. It's not like anything else in your library. All the SWLS stuff is kind of interchangeable. They can return it wherever they want. ILL items need to come home to the place they check them out. And the reason is because that WISCAT platform that's running in the background, it's not interchangeable between libraries. Like it cannot check it in Barneveld if it really belonged to Darlington. Like it just doesn't work. And that's how things get stuck on patron accounts and stuff gets stuck in Verso when it's really gone, and it causes confusion. So the more you can emphasize with your patrons, please return it here. This item specifically needs to be returned here, the better off we're going to be. When that item comes back, you can check the item in Verso on your Verso check-in screen by typing the letters ILL and then the request number. And you can either type that or scan it, whichever works for you. And it automatically checks it in off of the patron account, and it marks it as returned in that CILL WISCAT platform. So you have to do nothing else. Don't go to ILL admin and mark it as returned, because that leaves a record in Verso. Always, always check it in on the Verso check-in screen. It automatically marks it as returned. Then all you have to do is slap that shipping label on, put it in the bin, and send it home. If for some reason a patron returns it to the wrong library, it will go in transit to you. And when you get it back, you'll have to check it in by typing ILL in the request number. And a lot of times we're going to probably end up with like a ghost record in Verso because of that. So if you notice that that happened, if there's like a note on it, hey, they returned this to Platteville by mistake, just send me the request number and say, hey, this one got returned to the wrong place. I'm sending it home. Then I can take a look and just clear up that background stuff. If you don't notice, I kind of do it methodically anyways, but it's better if I know it's there so that I can fix it right away. Any questions about returning those requests?
I have a quick question. So when we return a WISCAT item or ILL, we scan it in or we type it in the ILL and then the request number? Oh, I was never taught that way. Has that
Yes,
always
so
been
that
like
is
that?
it's been like that for 10 years.
Hmm, interesting. Okay. So ignore all our return records that we have been doing and are from us. So I
Yes.
will make sure to get that changed.
Yes. So all you have to do when a patron brings back one of their ILL items is go to the regular Verso check-in screen, just
Huh.
like you would anything else. Type in ILL and the WISCAT request number, which is on those shipping labels or whatever, and then hit enter. It automatically returns the item. So it's checked in off the patron account, deletes the record out of Verso so that it's not kind of lingering there as a ghost record, and it marks it as returned in that CILL platform.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
all you have to do. So probably
Well,
you were making it too hard. And
I
it's really common, so
apologize
don't feel
for the
bad about it.
mess that we may or may not
So
have been
it's
making.
easier than it needed to be.
Okay. All right. I will try to get that fixed.
Yeah. And I can make these slides available if it's helpful to anybody as well.
I'm screenshotting what I need and what I don't need.
Perfect. Any other questions before we move on to filling requests? All right. Then let's talk about filling requests for other libraries. So now we're talking about the lender side. Each day that you're open, you'll go to the ILL admin tab and the request manager to look for new requests. And you'll notice that the font size got a little bigger than it was a few weeks ago, which is great because it was really tiny for a while. But what you're going to be doing is looking at the right half of the screen under the lender side, and you'll look at the pendings. Those are things that libraries want from you. And you'll go check your shelves before you do anything else and grab the things and decide if you want to lend them. Check for borrower's notes. So the borrower's notes will be things like large print only, or this is for a book club. Please only send it if you're willing to mail it, or something, you know, anything that the borrowing library wants from you. Make sure you're cool with that. Most of the time, it's just a book club date. If you're cool with that, change the due date if you need to, which does work now. Didn't used to, but now it does automatically update that due date. And then enter the item barcode. And then go back up, change the status to shipped, and hit submit. After you submit that you've shipped it, you can go back out to the ILL admin tab on your dashboard and go to the print shipping labels line. Then you can find your title, check the box by that title, and click format to print in the top right of your screen. If you're printing more than one, remember not to do them back to back, because a lot of times people have that as a default to save paper, but then you're going to get back-to-back shipping labels for different libraries, and you're going to be like, oh, I did it again. Ask me how I know. So don't print them back to back. Attach the label to the material, and remember, for ILL materials, you may not tape on the books. You have to tape the label to the rubber band. Or put the label inside the material sticking out of the top with the destination highlighted, and then rubber band. But you're not allowed to tape anything to a material for ILLs. And then put it in your regular delivery bin, and we will get it out to where it belongs. When an item that you've loaned to another library comes back, this is the easiest part. Throw that shipping label away, check it in just like you would anything else in your whole library. With the library barcode, just check it in. Whoop, done. It automatically marks it as complete in that CILL platform, and it's back on your shelf and ready to be used again. So it's super simple. Anything that comes back from a different library, just check it in, just like you would something from one of our own libraries. Any questions? All right. So we've got a couple regular questions that I get all the time about borrowing. So this is stuff for your patrons. How do patrons renew ILL materials? You have to ask before you can just renew stuff, if it's an ILL from another library system. And you'll do that by going from the ILL admin tab on your dashboard to either the request manager or the borrower requests. Find that, and then you have to switch the status to request renewal and wait for that library to answer you. You have to emphasize with your patrons that you can't just extend those due dates without permission. Um, a lot of times, if they only need a day or two more, you can request the renewal, but by the time you hear back, the patron might already be done with it. So you can tell your patron, hey, we'll request the renewal and let you know as soon as we hear, keep it and tell them, or something like that. Um, what if a patron loses a book? If a patron loses a book, you have to contact the owning or lending library. And even if your patron hasn't paid for it, your library is responsible for the cost of the replacement. So in SWLS, the patron is responsible ultimately for that payment. In WISCAT, so in the statewide landscape, your library is fiscally responsible for that book from the time it was shipped from the library to the time it returns to that owning library. So if your patron loses it, you're on the hook. Now, obviously, you can try and get that money back from your patron, but you will have to pay that to the owning library. And then last but not least, what if a patron returned an ILL to the wrong library? So if the item got returned to the wrong library, sometimes libraries don't know that it's an ILL item, especially if it doesn't have that like WISCAT paperwork with it when the patron has it. And they might just send it to whoever the item belongs to. So, this item belongs to Viroqua. All right, well, I'm just going to send it to Viroqua because I have no idea what this is. So what you do if a patron says, oh, this is still on my account, but I returned that. Check in ILL admin if that item is marked complete. If it is marked complete, it means that the owning library has acknowledged that they've received the item back, and you can manually check the item in to get it off the patron account. And you can do that by going to the check-in screen, typing ILL and then the request number, check it in, just like if they had handed it to you. So you can do that if it's marked complete. If it's not, then what you could do is ask them where they returned it and call that library and see if they know anything about it, or call the owning library and ask them to check their shelves. Because if they sent it back with no WISCAT paperwork, there's a chance that they didn't mark it as complete in WISCAT, even though that's back on their shelves. So it just takes a little bit more follow-up on your end to figure out where that physical item actually landed. And if you get stuck and need help, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you try and track down like what might have happened or who to contact or something like that. So all right, let's talk about a couple questions that come up on the lending side. So do you have to fill every request? No, you're going to get requests once in a while for things that are brand new, even though the rule is that you can't request things that are less than 6 months old. You don't have to say yes to those just because they showed up in your pending list. Sometimes you'll get one in your pending list that actually is checked out. And that doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. You might get a request for something that you don't want to send across the state, like a violin. And you can just choose will not supply instead of shipped. Give a reason if you can. So if it's in use, there's one called in use on loan. If it's too new, you can say will not supply. You could omit the reason, but in the lender notes, just say too new. And then there are every once in a while requests for specific things that don't match what's on your shelf. So you'll get a request for like this season of television. And you have seasons 1 and 2, but they're asking for like season 15. And you don't have that. Don't worry about it. It is guessing the ISBN is the same as the thing that you have. All you have to do is say will not supply, not found as cited. So don't worry about that too much. If it happens over and over, like we had a rash of everybody wanted Heartland season 15, but it was matching on Heartland season 6 or something like that, let me know, because sometimes we can go in and like Ed and I can figure out if our ISBN is wrong or if there's a record out there with Heartland season 15 that the ISBN is wrong out there, and we can try and resolve it so it doesn't keep happening. But if it just happens like once and it's just not a thing you actually own, say will not supply, not found as cited, and don't worry about it. I will say that if you have the thing, try to lend it, because the better you lend, the better people will lend in return. And that's really how the landscape in interlibrary loan works, is that everybody just agrees to share as much as possible. So how do you renew things when renewals are requested? So if a library requests a renewal on your item, you can change the status on that to accepted renewal, and then go to a library's patron record. So if it's, I don't know, La Crosse Public Library, you'll have to look La Crosse Public Library up in our catalog as if they were a patron, and you can find your item and manually change the due date. If you click renew, it should be 4 weeks. That's typically what we agree to lend. So, and if you don't want the renewal, you can reject it. If you are noticing that there are like automatic rejections happening and you get contacted by a library, let me know that those rejections are happening automatically, because I can work with the Autographics help desk to try and figure out why that's happening. I believe we have most of those corrected, but let me know if you see that happening. Any other questions so far? Hearing none. What we're going to do then is we are going to go out to, I'm using Richland Center as my example because they do a lot of WISCAT, and so they're a really good example. Can everybody see my Verso screen? It should have a purple header. All right, great. I'm actually going to even make this just a little bit bigger so you can see it a little better. We are here at the Staff Dashboard ILL Admin tab, Request Manager. And you'll see the left-hand side has borrower information, lender side has lender information. They have already done their WISCAT pending stuff, so there's nothing here. Let's see if we're going to try Dodgeville. Dodgeville has some. So here's that pending list that I was talking about. Every single day you should check that lender action items, this pending section. And it gives you the things that libraries want from you. So you would go check your shelf for them and bring them back up to the desk to process. If you need to print this off because it's a bunch of stuff, you can click the pick list button up in the top right corner, and it basically just formats something that gives you a title, an author, and a call number so that you know what you're going to find. And you can print that off if you need to. If it's just 1 or 2 things, probably you'll be able to remember and go grab the stuff. Or you can do them one at a time if you choose. So once you find this book, you'll go into this request. The first thing you do is scroll down. There's nothing in the borrower's notes. So you can type or scan the item barcode here, and then go back up, change pending to shipped, and click submit. Obviously, I'm not going to do this because I will screw up everything happening in Dodgeville, but this is what you would do. And then once you're done moving things to the shipped status, you can go back to ILL admin and print shipping labels. And then anything that's in the shipped and will supply that hasn't been printed will be listed here. You can also change this to include returned items, or just only shipped, or returned, shipped, and will supply. If you change this, it gives you more things. You can also reprint a slip if it's been lost by viewing unprinted and printed labels. So a lot of people kind of disregard the whole top section, and it's got some extra features if you're looking for things and just can't find them. And if you have a huge list and you need to find it, you can search by request number, by title, by destination library. I think request number and title are probably the most common ones. And then you can click the format to print button, print them out, and send them on their way. Let's go back to the request manager. I'm going to go back to here and show you. You will see lots of stuff in the pending in the borrower side. Those are things that you've already requested that we're waiting for action from other libraries. And so you can see that there's patrons that want all this stuff. We have not gotten them shipped yet from other libraries. So you can see what's still happening. You can also see overdues. So things that are overdue in ILLs. When you see those, if you can request renewals, it's the more polite way to do it. Things that are recalled mean that the owning library wants them back as soon as possible. So you should contact your patron and say, hey, we really need this back. Please bring it in as soon as possible because the library is asking for it. And the reason we have these is because owning libraries sometimes need them back. Sometimes it's because the stuff's way overdue. They've rejected a renewal and they just want it back. They have patrons waiting for it, but we should respect their wishes and try and get the item back from our patron as soon as possible. All right. Any questions about the request manager?
I have a quick question just about the logistics to help me understand the
Sure.
process. Why is it that Richland Center, for example, has more ILLs than other branches?
They are a larger library, but they have some patrons with some eclectic tastes. So really it's just kind of their community has wants that aren't in our library system. So
Okay.
they have a really high one. Platteville has a high one just because they're the largest library, of course. But sometimes like a patron will get stuck on wanting a specific series and nobody in our system has it. So they ask
Okay.
for like a whole bunch of stuff. So
Okay.
there's
Thank
nothing
you.
like inherently good or bad about having a huge list of WISCATs. Some patrons are really, really big power borrowers and do a lot of WISCAT requesting. Some libraries just don't have those patrons or they're satisfied with browsing what is in our system. And that's fine too.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else? All right. Then let's go out to, in that ILL admin, there are borrower and lender requests and request by search or search by request number. I like to do this one when I'm receiving WISCATs. So when I got my delivery and there's a bunch of stuff that I have to process for our patrons, because I can enter the ILL number and it will bring up that full record right away. So I have to go back and copy one quick. Um, Bear with me here. All right, request by search number. So this item just came in delivery. I scan that shipping label and I can say, yep, this is for a borrower. And here's the item. So I can change it to received. I can't do this here because I don't have the permissions, guys. I'm sorry. And submit. Let's see if I have permissions to do it through the borrower requests screen. So here you could, if you have a stack and you don't want to search through this because you've got just a ton of them. If you've only got 3 or 4, you can just click on the item that you have in hand. But if I type this in, This one comes up and I could change it to received. Again, I don't have those permissions in the account that I'm logged in as. So you'll be able to change it to received and hit submit. And then in lender requests, you can see the stuff you have here. You don't have to do a lot with this because once you ship it out, when it comes back, you just check it in Verso. Let's see. Oh, one thing I did want to show you in this like borrower requests screen is that, let's see, you can change what the columns are. So you can add formats or due dates or all kinds of stuff. And if there's too much information here for you, like you don't care who the author is or you don't care who the lender is, you can uncheck these and make that fit a little nicer. When it's on one page like this, it kind of fits across, but you can edit what columns exist if that's helpful to you. All right, let's go ahead and try a couple searches. So again, when you are searching for an item, the first thing you do is search in Verso. Does anybody have an example of something? Maybe I'll just pick one of these because I know it's not in Verso. So I'm searching Verso only right now. You can see that when I click on my pancakes, I'm just finding Southwest Wisconsin Library System and Libby. You can turn off digital materials if you don't want to see any results for those by unchecking this box. But right now we're just searching Verso. I'm getting two things here and neither of them is at all the thing I'm looking for. So now I know I need to search WISCAT for it. So I click my pancakes, check all, and I would always recommend just check all of them. Don't pick just a couple. Check them all. And then search again. This is going to take a little bit because it is live searching everybody's catalogs. And so you'll see at the bottom here, it's searching all these additional resources. Patience is your friend here. Wait until it's done because you might see a record and be like, oh yeah, I can just get it from here. You might be able to get it faster from somewhere else if you just give it a second. Because we're on Zoom, this is taking a long time. Whenever you're busy, this is going to feel like it's taking forever. So patience is a virtue. When this is done searching, it will give you a little button to update the results. And that's when you'll be able to see the best results. So we're going to see if we can wait this out together. If you have questions while we're waiting, I would take them. Otherwise, we're just going to keep waiting. This really does go faster when we're not on Zoom. And I'm like trying to be efficient and stuff like that. Remember that just like in Verso, you can narrow things down. I will tell you that using material type is not going to be useful to you because material type is a Verso, like our library system feature that is not used by other systems. So if you want a specific kind of item, like a DVD, use format, not material type, to narrow down that search. All right, so this is done. We're going to click update on the bottom here. And now we've got, look at all these different ones that have results for us. And again, Northern Waters is Wisconsin, Share is Wisconsin, KS, that's Kansas. So you probably don't want that one unless you have to. Winnifox is Wisconsin and South Central is Wisconsin. So those are all great options. Just for the sake of practice, we're going to choose the South Central one. That includes Madison. They're pretty close by. So we're going to click on that to look at the full record. It doesn't say ILL lender, but we happen to know that Madison Public Library is going to lend that for us. For the sake of argument, let's go back up and check share. They're all not showing up right now, and I'm not sure why. I'm going to have to take a look at that. It should say whether they're an ILL lender. But either way, if they're a Wisconsin library and they're a public library, they're a lender. So let's go back and do South Central like we had planned. Once again, we can see this is the item we want. And we can either check request this item, or if we needed 5 or 6 of them, multi-copy. When we request this item, we just look up our patron's name. Nope. How about Larry Bird? Larry Bird wants this item. Then we go through and say, any addition is acceptable? Yeah, I don't care what it is. Try out of state. I definitely want this. So go ahead. This format only, again, would only be if you only want a large print or only want Blu-ray and not DVD. Borrower's notes, if I needed this for a book club, this is where I would enter my borrower's notes. Check that Larry Bird is in here and hit submit. Any questions about this screen? All right, I'm going to cancel that and say that I want to do a multi-copy request instead. So right now I want to get this for a book club. So I'm going to click multi-copy instead. And now it's going to be, I'm just going to pick the Lancaster Book Club because it came up first. In this case, for those book club requests, you have to wait for lenders to be added to the lender list. And you only have to wait until there's enough that covers the number of books you want. So right now it says 8 potential lenders. I only wanted 5 copies anyway, so that's great. Now the change is you can still do any addition is acceptable and try out of state. You'll see a lender list here. And this is where if you knew that Milwaukee, for example, had 5 copies, you would just click to the beginning of this, enter XC36, XC36, XC36. So now 3 requests are going to Milwaukee before they go to anywhere else. And then number of copies needed. I need 5. This is where you enter how many copies of this item you need. People sometimes accidentally put that in volumes needed. That is not the right spot. Volumes needed would be if it was a multi-volume set of like encyclopedias or something like that. So you do not put it in volumes needed. It is number of copies needed. And it's got a little red star, so you shouldn't be able to submit it unless you put something here. But it's still good to know that this is where you're looking. And then when you're ready, click submit. And it will send out 5 different requests. 3 of them right now are going to Milwaukee, and then the next ones are going to 2 separate libraries. And if those don't respond, they'll move down that lender list, just like they always do. Questions about book club requests? All right. Any questions about anything? We're kind of getting to the end of our time. So if you have questions about anything ILL related, let me know. Like I said, this is being recorded and will be available online. I'll have it up on YouTube this week still. So you can review it or have your staff view it if they have ILL responsibilities. All right, no questions for me. If you get into this or forget something or get stuck somewhere, you can always reach out to me. You can reach out to me anytime at SWLS. Remember, oh, you know what? I'll just go to this. Remember that this SWLS help button is always here on all of your staff accounts. You can go to this help page to get to our best practices handbook, to our contact information here at SWLS. And then there's also our YouTube channel, which has these types of webinars and tutorials uploaded. And again, if you need to get in touch with me, you can call or email me anytime, and I'd be happy to walk you through it. Thanks for coming and have a great day.